For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber. This is Derek Evans. It's Monday, and it's yet another glorious day in America's new golden age. I think you're muted.
Daggone it. Well, I'm getting used to these new earbuds here that I got here. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend. Happy Cinco de Mayo to all of you guys. I don't know about you, but I'm hoping that the White House account will actually stream deportation videos all day long while we're eating tacos. That would be awesome. But I hope you guys had an awesome weekend. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe, all those good things. And whatever platform you're watching on, hop in the comments. I read every single comment, and I'll do my very best to give you guys a shout out. Kind of like this. We already got Kelly Song over here in the Rumble chat, and then we've got Kristen over here in the X chat, and we have an awesome show lined up for you guys here today.
Oh, yeah, and actually, we got a few things to get to before we get to our main stories, and you just reminded me of another one. You had all these deranged leftists over the weekend saying the red hats, the Trump supporters, all need to stay home, that we're not allowed to have access to tacos or Mexican food anymore. Well, that's a bunch of BS, and you can find plenty of good Mexican restaurants. Like there's a great one here in Dayton, La Familia, that's from a family that immigrated here the right way, the legal way. Now they own 3 restaurants in the area. The food's wonderful, and that's where I'm going to go ahead for lunch today. After we do the show, go pick up a delicious enchilada 5-pack, and that's going to be a lunch and probably dinner for today. But,
really quick, this is why I love the comments. This is why I love the audience. Kelly's Song in the Rumble chat says, Happy Cinco de Porto.
Yes. Yes, that's what we need awesome. To celebrate. Cinco de Porto, that's a brilliant idea. We ought to just stream deportations and ICE raids live all day in celebration of Cinco de Mayo. If they want to celebrate Mexican independence, they can do it from home.
That's right.
All right. And we got one other announcement, one other breaking story right now we need to cover. So if the Senate doesn't act, if these pansies in Washington don't push Ed Martin through for D.C. District Attorney, then believe it or not, Boasberg is the one that gets to select his temporary replacement. They need to get off their asses. They need to get him through the confirmation hearings and shut down the Democrats on his appointment. The phone number for the Senate is 202-224-3121. Call your representative right now. Tell them you will no longer be donating to their campaign anymore if they don't get off their asses and do something about this.
Yeah, man, this is so frustrating. And just so everybody's aware, yes, we're talking about the same Judge Boasberg who has cherry-picked and hand-picked multiple Trump cases just to rule against President Trump on literally every single thing you could imagine. That guy on May 20th, if the Senate is not confirmed to Ed Martin by then, that guy will be the person who chooses the acting U.S. attorney until the U.S. Senate actually does something. And here's the other thing. I don't care if somebody likes Ed Martin or not. I love Ed Martin. I know Ed Martin. I've met him multiple times. He's a patriot. He's awesome. Even if as a senator you do not, I don't really care. President Trump took a bullet for our country. President Trump his families went through hell and back for our country. He is the one that was delivered the mandate from the American people. He's the one who gets to choose the people that he trusts to serve in his administration, not you rhino turds in the Senate. You don't get to make those decisions. President Trump does. And so therefore you need to confirm Ed Martin to the U.S. attorney immediately.
Yeah. Again, this is what the people voted for, and this is what we need from you guys right now. We've unfortunately only got you to put our trust in, so we're depending on it, and you're depending on us to raise funds. So it's time to do something, and I'm getting closer and closer to the point where I think we just need to shut down the filibuster. It's being abused right now. To avoid votes. They're using it to hold the country hostage, so it's time to end it. I know the clapback on that is, they're just going to abuse it once they have power again. Right now, I think we have an opportunity to crush them in ways where the left, the Democrats, these globalists will not regain power for 20, 30 years. And by then, they're going to be a totally... Well, actually, they may not even be a party by then. But we can completely stomp out their power base right now just by pushing through Trump's agenda, cleaning up all the corruption in D.C., and throwing half of these losers in jail that have broken laws for the last several decades unobstructed. So it's time for some change. We got one other thing to get to before we get to our main stories today. Bill Maher had Dr. Phil on last week, and some of these cuts are just glorious. Let me run the first one for you guys.
I don't think Bill Maher saw that one coming.
What I think we disagree a lot on is that you think family and faith are a big fix to the problems we have. I mean, I don't have a family, and I definitely don't have faith. So I get it, definitely not part of the solution.
It's so the truth.
That was just the opening salvo. Bill Maher looked like he was in full-blown depression by the end of this episode. I got one more clip for you guys. Give me a second to set this up. But I was trying to find. I'm struggling. While
you're doing that, I want to say two things about Dr. Phil. Number one, I bet Oprah, if she had to do it all over again, never would have platformed Dr. Phil because she's a liberal whack job, and Dr. Phil is obviously not. And I believe that Dr. Phil is going to get into politics at some point. I don't know if it's going to be running for president or Senate or I believe, I don't know this, but I believe he is going to run for something at some point in the very near future.
Yeah, he definitely seems to be setting the stage for that. And he's drawn a line in the sand. He's chosen his side. And I've been pretty impressed with him on his journey over the last couple of years, especially. But again, just having the courage, like you said, to come out from being part of Oprah's little club to begin with, and her kind of bringing him out there to everybody. He's definitely gone after all of them now on this agenda on the left, specifically TDS. Let me go ahead and run this next clip.
Well, no, that's for the love of God, Bill, just give up. Your retarded little stance on everything. It's so tiresome. I'm a cool guy. Listen to me. Smoke pot. Suck off a guy. Enough, Bill. Enough.
I just am for...
Nobody wants to hear it, you stupid son of a bitch. The time of the pothead is over, Bill, and the time of the ranch is just beginning.
Is that real?
So, yeah, that's real. That was on Bill Maher's own show. So,
oh my gosh.
Now, the ranch that he's talking about was earlier and this is the clip I can't find. He interrupted Bill Maher again and said that he was going to open a mental health ranch for all these TDS sufferers. First, he was saying, Bill, your job is try to de-radicalize some of these leftist lunatics that are out there, and you failed at this miserably. They just keep getting worse. So he's going to open a ranch where he can treat them properly, a ranch for the criminally insane Democrats.
That is hilarious. Well, really quick, we'll get some shout outs really quick. We got Dan Dreyer in the Rumble chat. We've got You Peaked, Unclear, and Obliviously over here in the Getter chat. And then in the X chat, we've got Thaddeus, we've got Jen, we've got Jack, and Brian Dell. And then Jen says, Dr. Phil got based. And that is a fact. That came out of nowhere. I have no clue where this came from, but I'm loving every minute of it.
Oh yeah, the fact that he gave Bill Maher verbal beatdown after verbal beatdown on his own show, again, just glorious, and he just looks dejected by the end of the episode. It's perfect. Well, I guess time to get into the news of the day. First driverless heavy-duty trucking service launched on U.S. public roads. So right now they're just running between Dallas and Houston. But again, like I don't know. I just feel like this is not ready for prime time to have these robotic trucks. A semi truck is entirely different than a car or a taxi.
Yeah.
Like they're been running in L.A. And even those, we've seen all kinds of screw ups from them. There's a great video, terrible. I feel bad for the guy. Is in one of these taxis, and I think it was San Francisco at the airport. And something happens to the robot, and it's just driving in circles for over an hour in the parking lot. Wouldn't let him out, wouldn't unlock the doors. I don't know if he ended up missing his flight or not, but he started posting this online while he was talking to their customer service company. He's like, your robot won't let me out. I'm trapped in the airport.
What's even funnier is when he called customer service, he's probably talking to another robot. Like it's
probably another AI.
Like getting into a real person. Yeah, he's talking to a machine, talking about the machine who won't let him out of the car. It's unbelievable. As you said, the semis are totally different, man. If that was to hit somebody, you talking about, I mean,
it's a rolling weapon.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. If they want to start implementing these sorts of things, I'm not a fan of it at all. But if they wanted to start doing that, then they could build their own private road somewhere, or their own lanes at the very least, with like barriers set up to where that they could do that. I would be okay with that from that standpoint. But to allow them out on the public roads, I mean, I would imagine, honestly, I would say there's a lot of drunk drivers that I would feel more comfortable with than a robot semi truck running down the road.
Oh yeah, I mean, what happens if these things like lose their GPS satellite connection, or something else happens? Like even if it's due to whether it's natural occurrence, electromagnetic storm, or let's just say the antenna on the truck disconnects or the GPS board fries. Do they pull over to the side of the road and stop till a human can safely get the cargo to wherever it goes? And I think there already is a private road that was built for autonomous driving that goes out of Detroit somewhere and runs for I want to say like 50, 60 miles, something like that was built years ago, back when they were thinking about embedding magnets in the highway and using those as a way to guide self-driving vehicles, so that they always had, the correct path, the lane they were supposed to be in, and then you just had to worry about proximity to other vehicles. But yeah, I don't feel like these things are ready for prime time, and this is just begging for problems to happen.
Yeah, it's just, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a fan of this. How do you, if it's a small car, I'm still not a fan, but okay. But this is totally. I mean, what's next? Are we going to make the school buses that as well and throw our children on there and say, take them to school, robot? I mean, that's just, whole thing is just insane. Not only that, I mean, are they limited to what kind of things they can carry? Are they allowed to, is it only like dry goods, or are they able to, are these trucks also carrying chemicals and, dangerous things such as that, if like something were to happen? And now that's created an even bigger issue. I don't know those answers. I'm just asking out loud, because I didn't hear about the story until right before we came on the air myself. So
yeah, I think it kind of flew under the radar. I did hear about it a little bit yesterday. It was kind of the same thing, that basically like this seems to be out of nowhere, that I feel like even with the robo taxis and other things, and again, maybe we just didn't hear about it. Maybe this has been going on for 2 years, but like with the robo taxis, again, they tried them in closed areas. Then they tried them in on public roads, but very limited. They only had a few blocks that they could drive in, but there were plenty of steps along the way where they worked out, kinks and details. And they're, obviously still not perfect. I mean, they took the one guy hostage at the airport for an hour, but at least there was some effort to make sure they'd be compatible and could deal with, sudden stops in traffic and other problems. Again, that also was on city streets, not on the highway, so they were driving at much lower speeds, 35 miles an hour. Again, it's still dangerous, but it's not a 45-ton vehicle going down the highway at 70 miles an hour, where if something happens, it could let's say it just doesn't react. There's a complete traffic stop and it runs into the back of cars. How many does it plow through at 70 miles an hour if it never takes its robo foot off the gas, so to speak?
Well, and even after it hits something, I mean, so if somebody's texting and driving in a semi and were to hit somebody, at the very least, when that happens, they still release does it ever stop if it does malfunction to that point, to where like even when it's sitting there, it's just still revved up, like trying to go? I don't know. This whole thing is, like I said, I'm not a fan of this at all. There's certain jobs obviously that technology can do and can replace. I'm fine with that. I mean, I would rather them put a bigger focus on putting robots in fast food restaurants, and replacing these little entitled 50-year-olds who think that they deserve $50 an hour, and always get your order incorrect. I would rather have robots running those sorts of things if we're going to put a focus on something at this point.
Yeah, something worthwhile. Again, I think this is something that nobody asked for, except for I assume some greedy logistics business. And I wonder if these are these electric trucks too, or are they electric trucks? I guess we'll find out. Let's go ahead and jump to our next story here. This is also inviting in disaster. New York City mayor announces that mosques don't need permits, can blast the call to prayer over the loudspeaker at will. And, as we've discussed before, this is Islam, not just symbolically conquer New York, but now I guess starting to figuratively conquer New York.
America as a country. Whoa.
Hit the wrong button for a second.
I looked a lot better there for a second. America is being conquered right now before our very eyes. Minneapolis has already been conquered. Dearborn, Michigan's already been conquered. They're conquering Texas of all places right now. They're building their own little cities. The state of Texas actually just passed a bill, or at least proposed a bill. I don't know if it passed or not. Proposed a bill that would criminalize people who are posting memes and such, making fun of Islam and other things. Believe it or not. And now they're also doing the same thing in Florida. We are literally being conquered while we sit around with anybody who's in a major position to speak out against these things. They either support this and have been bought off, or they are too big of cowards to speak out against it because they don't want to be labeled as a racist or whatever else. And the good thing about me, anyways, is that I'm one of the most canceled people in the country. There's nothing they can do to me at this point. What are they going to do? Debank me? Already happened. So I'm going to speak out against it. We cannot allow the Islamization of America to continue. We are going to be conquered within probably the next 25 years completely if we don't start standing up and speaking out about it. It's going to happen that quickly, maybe even sooner. This is very, very dangerous territory for our country. We are almost to the point of no return, and we might already be there, to be honest with you. I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah, some states I think feel like we're already across that line. And then it's really whether we can rescue the rest of the country and then liberate New York and other places that have made these deals with the devil. This is also at a time where there's been numerous lawsuits to get churches to stop even ringing their church bells. And again, not to mention, we have these leftist wackos that think the separation of church and state is in the Constitution. It isn't. And again, freedom of religion doesn't mean freedom from religion. Most of the country is religious, and right now there is a resurgence in the Christian faith in the United States once again. But if most of the country is religious, and most of them, even if they aren't practicing Christian, they come from a background of Christian values, then this is part of our culture and part of who we are. But again, we have these rabid, blue-haired moonbats that want to shut down any mention of God, any mention of religion, because I think a lot of them are honestly possessed.
Oh, yeah, I would. I mean, honestly, I was. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to step on some toes for a minute. The Muslims want to conquer America more than Christians want to save it. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. I mean, honestly, I obviously I'm a Christian. We are all saved by Jesus Christ, in my opinion. But they are way more willing to sacrifice and to do what is necessary to push their religion than Christians are. I mean, it is sad. We are now living at a time where, for goodness sakes, we've got Christians in Nigeria and other countries who are being attacked and being beheaded and having their heads cut off. And we're a Christian country, and nobody's even really talking about that. And at the same time, we are being conquered right before our very eyes. and everybody is afraid to say something because they don't want to have a label thrown on them. And these are the same people who want to go to church on Sunday and then pretend as if they would have stood alongside the disciples during that time of Jesus. No, you wouldn't have. You won't even stand up today and say anything in this day and time. There's no way you would have done anything back then. And so it's just we're coming to a time where Christians, it's probably, I hope it's a long ways off. I hope it never happens, but we're coming to a point at some point in this country, if things continue the way that they are. Look what's happening in Nigeria, and that's going to come to a town near you where our Christian grandchildren are going to be attacked and slaughtered on our own land because the Christians today were too weak to stand up and speak out and fight back.
Yeah, and this is already what you see in Europe, where they openly attack, Christmas villages and get-togethers and things, and it's happened here some. But yeah, unfortunately, Christians' unwillingness to take a stand, fight, this compromising with evil, that's what's led to a lot of this, as the church has embraced, the LGBTQ movement, and we have interfaith dialogues and other things. This watering down of Christianity is part of why we're in the position we are right now, that no one's been willing to take a stand until now, and now the question, is it too late? I don't think it's quite too late yet, but we're rapidly approaching that if something doesn't change. All right, guys, we got to take a quick break.
But right before the break, because I know we never get back to these conversations, obviously, as we go to the next story, but
sure.
The chat is really popping off over here, and Thaddeus is saying, "Wake up, America! We're going to wind up like the UK." Maven is talking about how the UK fell, how they fell so quickly. And then Smash is talking about how Canada's screwed because of it, and they're just next door. And these are all really important things I think to consider. Is the UK, honestly, I believe there comes a point, and we're a little bit bigger, so it's going to take us a little longer to get there. But there comes a point where once it achieves that point, it goes into hypersonic overtaking of the country, and that's what has happened to the UK. And it was almost like not even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, there were people having these conversations like we're having right now in the UK, and now all of a sudden they're conquered. Same with Canada, and as they just said, Canada's literally right next door to us. This is happening in our country right now, and there's going to come a point where, and it could be, I hope not, it very well could be, though, the way things are going within the next decade, that now all of a sudden we've reached that point where hypersonically they just take over within the following decade and conquer us the way that they did. Because watching the UK, it was mind-blowing how fast it really happened once they started doing it.
Oh, yeah. Well, as they say in London, Allahu Akbar. We'll be right back.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs here on Ex American News is by supporting our sponsors. You can go to MyPillow or MyStore.com right now. Use code INSURRECTION for the deepest discounts, and you'll be supporting all of Mike Lindell's U.S.-based workers at the MyPillow factories, all the small businesses on My Store, and supporting great patriot Mike Lindell in his fight for free and fair elections. And again, he needs help. He's back in the media crosshairs again right now ever since he threatened to run against Tampon Tim. So again, My Store, MyPillow.com, use code INSURRECTION, and you'll be supporting us, helping us to bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. Well, let's get to a good story here, something positive. for now at least, until the courts try to reverse this. Romanian prime minister to resign after conservative candidate crushes coalition in do-over election. And this is big news. Kalin Georgescu, you see there on the left, not only did they disappear that election, say the results were invalid, and again, this is after the opposing party funded ads on TikTok to make them believe that Russia was interfering in their election. Nothing's done about that. But George Simeon, the gentleman there on the right, he's a good man. I've met him multiple times in Romania and here in the U.S. This is somebody that is a Christian that cares about Romania, is not a globalist, will not bow down to NATO or the EU, somebody that will take a stand. He deserves, he's their party's won 2 elections now. He deserves to be their next president. The Romanian people deserve to get what they voted for, get their country on a better path, and I'm all there for it.
You know, Mike, this is something I don't know a whole lot about. I know that you do, Mike. As you said, you've literally flown over there and met with these people multiple times. You've been covering this very extensively, you and Sharona Bishop and a few others with Ex-American News. And so I guess you answered one of my questions, which is, so this is, just to clarify, this is the same party that won the first time, and then the judges stepped in and threw it out, and then they did the re-election. So that it was a different person, but the same party, basically, right?
Yeah, and I actually like Simeon more than Georgescu anyway, because Georgescu is a reformed globalist, which always makes me nervous. Now, if he's serious about the reforms, sometimes it does take somebody, coming over from the other side, realizing that's evil, and then sometimes they're the biggest cheerleader on the other side because they really do understand what the enemy is, that they've had a real change of heart. But Simeon, I know, from the ground up, like, this guy's already gone to jail multiple times for his political beliefs, for taking a stand. This guy is a real fighter. He's not going to back down. He's a family man. He's a father. He's a devout Christian. And actually, if you guys aren't following Andrew Moeller on Twitter, you should. And I'll see if I can get him to repost this interview he did with them just a few months ago when we were in Belgium for the Making Europe Great Again. He has a fantastic interview. It's about 20 minutes long that he did, not just talking about his political philosophy, but his religious philosophy and how that drives him to want to save Romania. They deserve to choose their own destiny. They suffer for decades as a puppet of the Soviet Union. They've really only been a country with their own free will and determination for around 30 years, I guess just over 30 years. So they're still in the process of throwing off that yoke of communism and control, breaking through all the barriers that were put in front of them as the Soviet Union collapsed, and even all the mental trauma, I guess, that took for them to get there. So they deserve their own self-determination. They're tired of being an EU and a NATO puppet. They don't want this nuclear base in the north of their country, and people do not want to get involved in Ukraine. And again, that's what George Simeon represents. And again, they better not steal this election out from under him, or I think they'll have riots in the streets.
So just to put a button on this, for those of us in America, would it be safe to say that this is like the MAGA movement taking place in Romania? Like,
yes.
Would that be a fair statement to make?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're definitely similar. We're much more similar than we are dissimilar to AUR and their whole party. That's a populist conservative movement. They may not be 100% in line exactly on every single thing we are, but still, this is a good step forward for Romania.
Gotcha. So for lack of better words, I mean, it's the MAGA movement in Romania, or their version of the MAGA movement, I should say, in Romania. So this is a good thing overall for people who love freedom and want to spread freedom across the entire globe.
Well, and the other thing I'll give AUR specifically is they've done a lot to reach out to other conservative parties across Europe. This Making Europe Great Again, their first meeting was in Romania about a year ago. When I took the first trip over there, and they brought in people from Germany, from AfD, from Austria, from Spain, from London, everybody that is on our side of the aisle trying to save Western values and Western democracies. They're really smart that they are uniting with other parties like that across Europe, and then using their influence and that unity to also push legislation and rule changes they want at the EU, and then working together to draft legislation that can be used in all these countries. So, I mean, these are the kind of people that we need stronger ties with, people that have our values and want to save democracy, save freedom, and expand freedom across Europe, as they've been under the boot of the EU for decades now. So again, I only see upsides from this, but we'll have to wait and see what their courts do if they try to find some other reason to invalidate this election. I think if they do that, you'll have hundreds of thousands of people out in the streets protesting. Let's go ahead and jump to our next story. White House eyes deep cuts in non-defense spending and boosts to military budget. And this is something, as you guys saw through the weekend, the left is already losing their minds about. They're kind of, I saw CNN was saying that this is really illustrated by the cuts to PBS and NPR, that this is going to be the Trump administration seizing control of everything, and they're only going to be firing people they don't like. So expect a judge to get involved in this soon.
It's only a matter of time until a judge steps in at some point. I mean, it's just unbelievable how they're doing all this. If this is actual defense spending, then I support it. But unfortunately, so many times they say it's defense spending, and we're spending it in another country. Like, I'm sorry, but no, that would be offense spending. That would be offense spending, not defense spending. So if this is like for the Golden Dome that he wants to build here, and building the wall and those sorts of things, I'm all for that. I really believe that we have really left ourselves vulnerable in terms of defending our own homeland on a lot of these things, and we should be investing in the defense of our country. And while at the same time, cutting back spending in terms of trying to police the world, trying to start these forever wars, and all these other issues. Obviously, we would love to have peace for forever, but you cannot count on that or bank on that. And so therefore we need to have actual defense spending taking place. And I think that like I said, the Golden Dome, building the wall, all those sorts of things would be a good use of spending. So I haven't dove into this and checked it out, but I hope that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I do see a need to do some other modernization with the military. I know another thing that Trump's administration has brought up is streamlining certain processes within the military. They're just huge wastes of money right now, especially in like approving part changes for vehicles, simple things like that we're spending millions of dollars unnecessarily on. But yeah, I think the bulk of this needs to be for advancing the military here at home. And we need to eliminate a lot of these foreign bases that we have around the world. There's, at this point, like, we don't need all of them. I understand we do need some presence in certain places around the world, that's beneficial. But by and large, I think we need to shut down the bulk of these and spend the money here at home. If we're going to spend it at all. Here, we got some more good news. Trump's NIH shuts down final Beagle lab conducting painful experiments, ending Fauci era cruelty and bureaucratic waste. Now, I don't know why these rejects on the left are so obsessed with torturing animals, making them trans, hurting dogs, making transgender monkeys and everything else. Like, this just seems like such a waste and so cruel, and I'm glad to see these programs ending.
So, two questions. Number one is, how long until a judge orders the Trump administration to continue to start torturing animals once again? And number two, how long until these left-wing extremists who, in theory, you would think would be, animal rights activists as well, how long until they also are opposed to this just because it's President Trump? They're like, no, go ahead and torture them for another 3 years so that way we can get our own president to do exactly what President Trump just did. I mean, that's I'm not joking when I say that, by the way. Neither one of those things would surprise me. This is sad that this has been happening for as long as it has been. You got you talking about the transgender monkeys. We got the cocaine beagles.
Fish on treadmills.
Yeah, it's sad. It is absolutely sad what they have been doing with our tax dollars. And most of this was done, I think, more for pleasure and torture. It's not like they were doing a lot of these things to cure cancer or I get that there has to be some sort of testing
Yes.
in some aspect before you go to humans. I get that, but we don't need mass wide scale trying to turn monkeys transgender just to see what happens. Like
Yeah.
that is
Hamster fight
not,
clubs.
yeah, like if we're talking about something that's going to save humanity, or like I said, a cure for cancer, like in a very limited capacity, I hate it, but I understand it, and I'm okay with that. But that's not what has been happening for the last 40 years. They've literally just been torturing animals, quite frankly, for pleasure. Like you said, the hamster fight club. Like what the
Yeah.
heck? Who does that?
Yeah, who needs that? What good does that possibly serve? And again, I'm 100% humanity first, so I understand that some animal testing is necessary. But even then, it doesn't need to be cruel. It doesn't need to be torturous to the animals, and all these kind of things are just pointless. What do we learn from this? Nothing useful. Nothing that will help move humanity forward. Nothing that we use to advance our civilization. This is evil, pure and simple, and I'm glad it's gone. I'm glad we're not paying for it anymore. That's not the only cut, though, that Trump's made to the NIH and their funding. Trump admin slashes NIH research funding for LGBTQ health issues. Well, I think by now we know everything that we need to know. If you when somebody transes themselves, they leave themselves open to permanent medical problems, things that never cure, never heal, and don't accomplish the goals these perverts think they do anyway. So, hey, I'm all there for it. We need to cut the funding, slash it anywhere we can. If somebody wants to trans themselves and they're over 18, they can do it on their own dime.
I just don't even understand really what the research is on this. Well, I do, because they're researching everything but the actual thing that needs to be researched. Like in the trans movement, it's gender dysphoria. And instead of actually studying the mind and the behaviors as to what has led this person to feel this way, they are trying to trans monkeys, and not only that, they're trans children as a way of quote unquote studying this. That is not a true study. If they were actually trying to figure out what is causing this, then I would say, okay, that makes sense, because I do believe that this is an epidemic. I do believe that there is something that is in our food supply, that is in our water, that is something that is making a lot of these men, and I'm not making excuses for them, but I guess kinda I am, some of them. I do believe that there's something that's going on, whether that's with the social media, the tablets, the whatever. There's something that is making men a lot more feminine. I can't even say the word feminine. Gosh, that's what they're doing, though. I believe there's something going on, and so if they were studying and trying to figure that out, there's theories out there that all the birth control that all these women are on, it's not filtered in our city tap water. We know that, and so a lot of this estrogen is going into the water supply, and then it's being consumed, and that's the reason. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's a theory. There's the theory of the Alex Jones theory, where they did something to turn the frogs gay.
Atrazine.
Yeah, well, I really do believe there's something going on. I mean, obviously there's something going on, I'm also, and that's just from making them more girly and less manly in that regard. The toxic masculinity, the transgender, the full blown transgenderism, I believe is a full blown mental disorder, and I believe that a lot of these media things have been grooming these people for a period of time that has resulted in that. So if they were studying those sorts of things, I'd say, yeah, let's study it. This is a major issue. This is a sad issue. And I'm saying that from a place of compassion. I despise everything that these people are doing to our children and all that, but like the children themselves who or even the people who grow up and become adults who are victims of this, I say this from a place of compassion. I do believe a lot of them are victims of something. I just don't know what that something is, and I do believe that they deserve the help that they need.
Yeah, well, I think you're exactly right there. That maybe that's what the Trump administration should do, is reallocate a small amount of this money to look at issues from that perspective. Speaking of transgenders, though, let's jump into our next story here.
Gotta be a dude.
Yeah, so we were discussing this off air. I'm not sure if this is a dude or not, but I mean, it looks like it could be a linebacker for the Steelers. Top doctor behind Defense Department's vaccine mandate, who tossed thousands of men and women from the U.S. military for not taking the jab, sues to get her job back. Well, I guess it was okay when she was firing people for not taking the jab. But now that it's come down to her and her poor leadership and everything that was done that violated the rights of these soldiers, now she went to her back. And I'm sure some idiot partisan judge in D.C. will probably give it to her.
Oh yeah, I would not be surprised at all. Absolutely.
Temporarily at least.
Yeah, there's not only that, they'll probably give back pay. They'll do all this other stuff. It's just only a matter of time until a judge steps in, and probably Judge Boasberg at that, who's going to be choosing our U.S. attorney because our Republican senators are worthless. But it would not surprise me at all at this point. Yeah.
Well, she's probably just upset that they cut off her hormone therapy, but yeah, it's probably upset we cut off its hormone therapy. But what do I know? Well, let's go over to the left coast. This is the other thing they were screaming about all weekend. Well, not all weekend, at least yesterday. Trump proposes 100% tariff on foreign films, and I'm there for it. I think we need to be producing, and he ought to apply this to films shot in Hollywood too. Let's end their domination of our entertainment industry. They're already collapsing. They're already in free fall. I just saw this last Marvel movie, Avengers reboot or whatever it is Disney put out. That's crashing and burning too. We're tired of the wokeness. We're tired of the nonsense coming out of Hollywood and out of Europe. So I'm there for it.
The only thing that would make that better is if he proposed 100% tariff on all films coming out of Hollywood.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. If you want to take it from Hollywood to Ohio, you got to pay the tariff. But in all seriousness on this, I just hope that this means that when I go to watch a movie, like a movie I've never heard of or something that's trending or whatever, and I go to pop in the movie, that the mouth and the words will match up. I hate when you start watching a movie and it's like it was a foreign-based movie, and then they just add English words over top
dubbed
of it. And yeah, it's like that is not even close to. Drives me nuts. I literally cannot watch that. What's the there's a big show, Squid Game, is that what it is? Squid Game?
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it, but yeah.
I can't. I tried to watch it, but it's a foreign film, and good for them. But when see, my mouth just now started talking like that drives me nuts, man. I cannot handle that. I can't watch it. I can't stay focused.
Yeah, if it's a film overdubbed in English, it better be a really good film for me to actually watch it to the end. Like there's one or two or some like classic films like that I'll tolerate, that it's actually worth it. But no, otherwise, it's time to make America great again. And we'll make cinema great again in the process. Hollywood's gotten lazy. They've had no good ideas in decades. I mean, you really have to go back to like the late 90s or early 2000s for original films out of Hollywood that I think were really good. I mean, there were, I guess, a few after that, The Dark Knight and that whole series. But yeah, by and large, now we see reboots and trash out of Hollywood, and something's got to happen to change that again. Guys, we got to take another quick break, hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with more.
Well, hello everybody, it's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. But I'm sure for this, I hope I'll see you at lutfstudio.com.
Again, thank you for staying with us. And the best way to support our program is by supporting our sponsors. Go to lutfstudio.com, buy a unique, handmade, one-of-a-kind piece of artwork from Annie Cyrus. Support all the great work she does behind the scenes, producing shows and content for Ex-America News. And her own program, Live Up to Freedom, which you can watch on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So again, that's lutfstudio.com. Go there today. Get yourself a family heirloom you can pass down to future generations. All right, we're going to try to sneak a few more stories in here before we wrap up. President Trump issues a grave warning as radical judges shamelessly sabotage his immigration agenda and the Supreme Court sits on its hands. So I'm there for it, too. Trump has now floated the idea of suspending habeas corpus because, again, we need to end this invasion. He's given the tools in the Constitution to do this already, and it's been done before. It seems like an extreme measure, and we wouldn't have to take it if we didn't have all these radical judges going along, interfering, pretending they're co-president, and preventing him from doing the job the American people put him in D.C. to do.
He brought up a great point in the Meet the Press interview. He mentions, he says, there's 21 million illegals in this country. Are you suggesting that we have 21 million trials before we can deport these people? I mean, that's just insane to even think about. I don't know how anybody could say yes to that. My biggest issue with this as well is, like, you did not follow or receive or do any sort of due process coming in, aka you did not follow the law coming in. You are not entitled to due process to get back out. You can leave the same way you came, which is right back out with no questions asked. I mean, because that's how they entered the country. No questions asked. Joe Biden said, come on in, guys. Well, now we're saying, get the F out of our country. And you can either do it on your own or we're going to drag you out of here.
Exactly. And again, this is the left throwing their little temper tantrum, trying to interfere with things, slow walk them. And unfortunately, there's too many people on the right sitting on their hands, too. Really, the House and Senate should have already enshrined most of these executive orders into law and specifically given President Trump the authority that he needs on paper or legally, pass a new law, whatever it is they have to do these mass deportations. Biden left the door open and encouraged this invasion. So you can't tell me now that Trump can't undo it with the full approval from the American citizens. So this has got to stop, this interference from the courts in what are clearly outlined duties and powers that the president has. So if that means we've got to suspend habeas corpus to get the job done, you know what? That's what we're going to have to do. And they're the ones that pushed it this far.
Once again, those people don't qualify for habeas corpus. They just don't. I mean, they're here illegally. And once again, I continue to use this extreme example of this, but it really drives home, like, where if what I'm getting ready to say is not true to the left, then where do you draw the line in the sand? So they're saying that anyone who's in this country illegally has constitutional protections and due process. So my question then is, okay, if China invades our country, and are you saying that the moment that the Chinese boots hit the beaches, the sand on the beaches of California, that now all of a sudden they have constitutional protection? Is that what you're claiming? And if not, then where in between those two things that you're saying do we draw the line? I mean, because those of us on the conservative side are saying, if you're here, if you're not an American citizen, but you're here legally, if you're here on a visa or whatever, or you're visiting and you're here legally, then you have constitutional protections. And we're saying if you came in this country illegally for any reason whatsoever, then you do not have constitutional protection. So we're making our claim and saying this is where we're drawing the line in the sand as most conservatives. At least that's where I'm saying this, where I'm so. But my issue with the left is they won't tell you where they draw the line in the sand. Like, where is the point of no constitutional protection? And that's my biggest issue. At least tell us so then we can have a conversation, because right now you can't have a conversation with these people because you don't know what their claims are. You don't know what their views are. You don't know where their points are because they won't tell you.
Yeah, because they want these constantly shifting goalposts so they can change what it is all the time and then reframe it to get what they want. But yeah, this is the other thing that they're doing right now, is pretending that due process means jury trials. It doesn't. It never has. Not with immigration courts. Not when Obama was conducting deportations or any other prior president. So They don't need a hearing. It can literally be a meeting with an ICE agent saying, "Are you here? Are you a U.S. citizen? Are you here legally? Can you prove that you're here legally at the moment?" Well, you can't. Well, deportation for you. It's not a trial. It's just determining that they are here illegally and then sending them back from wherever they came. And again, we need to President Trump and Tom Homan and everyone else. They need to be allowed to enforce the law as is and conduct these mass deportations. That's what he was brought in office to do. And I kind of wonder if this next story doesn't have something to do with all these radical judges. Trump orders restoration of Alcatraz prison to lock up the dregs of society. Well, when I think of dregs of society, that's who I think of. Radical judges. Let's send them all to Alcatraz and they can think about what they've done. And you know what? There'll be plenty of room in the cells for some of the worst that they were defending to leave here. These murdering, rapist, illegal aliens that need to serve some time before we deport them. We can stack out Alcatraz with their fan club, and they can see how well they do in prison, locked up alongside these monsters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for it. I have to think. I don't know, obviously, but I have to think that the thought process behind President Trump on this is, well, if they're going to say that I can't deport people to El Salvador, then we're just going to send them to Alcatraz and do it there. And for the record, I don't think that it needs very much reconditioning, because it's not supposed to be a fun, nice place. The only conditioning that it needs is to make sure that these scumbags cannot get out of their cells unless we want them to, that they cannot get outside of those prison walls unless we want them to.
Exactly.
That's the only sort of conditioning. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. It doesn't need to be anything nice or anything like that. So I'm here for it. I think it would be awesome. And it's already there. The bones of it's there. Might as well remodel it and get it up and running.
Exactly. We'll make Alcatraz great again. And you know what? We can still be an attraction too. We can have tours go through where we can teach them about what happens when you're a radical judge and you ignore the Constitution and the will of the American people, that this is where you end up. So they don't even have to worry about the drop in tourism revenue. Everybody's a winner. Maybe we can put some stockades back out there too, and then we can charge people $5 to throw rotten tomatoes at some of these judges. They can each do their time in the stockades.
I would pay that.
I would too. I would even go to California to do it. That's saying a lot. Speaking of,
hold on really quick. I would even be okay if we had to pick so many tomatoes that we actually had to have illegals picking the tomatoes if we were using it to throw at the judges.
Hey, you know what? They can come in as lawful migrants. If they want to pick tomatoes for a season, they can do it the proper way. And you know what? If they do that, they can even send the remittance home. We'll be extra nice to them. After all, if they came here, did it the legal way, went through the process, it's their money. They earned it. They can spend it how they want. Again, as long as you're doing it legally and you're not hopping the fence, getting on welfare, and draining the U.S. taxpayers' dollars from programs that are supposed to benefit Americans. Anyway. All right. Well, we got more radical journey. Harmeet Dillon investigates Soros-backed Minnesota DA over considering race in plea deals. And again, I thought we were supposed to be past this. We passed the civil rights amendments or agreement, civil rights legislation back in the 60s. Everyone's supposed to be treated equally under the law. We know that doesn't always happen, especially if you're a leftist terrorist, then you get slaps on the wrist. But the fact of the matter is, racial sentencing guidelines are something that was stripped out a long time ago. These leftists still, I don't know if it's their white guilt or what it is, or if they just want criminals on the streets to terrorize their constituents. But this kind of policy should be obvious. This should be eliminated immediately. And I'm sure we can find something criminal to charge this idiot with.
It's not surprising that it's a white liberal woman. It's always the white liberal women. They are going to be the downfall of this country. They really are. This makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to take race into account when you are considering plea deals. I mean, who does that? I mean, that doesn't even make any sense whatsoever. Like two people commit the same crime. One person's white, one person's black, one person's Mexican, one person's whatever. Who cares if they both committed that crime and the circumstances are similar? Then they should be treated the same. I mean, it's mind blowing that we're even having these conversations right now about actual criminals in our country, and we're going to make excuses for certain criminals just based on the color of their skin. I mean, you can't even make this up at this point.
Yeah, it really is the Gulag Archipelago in real life, where the criminal. The career criminal deserves less of a sentence because he doesn't know better. But if you're somebody that's an upstanding citizen and then commit a crime or get caught up in something, well, you should have to really suffer under the law because you did know better. It's not your way of life. But it's such a backwards way to look at the problem. And again, putting it through this lens of race, I mean, that's, again, part of the problem in Chicago. Is you have these violent criminals and they if they're young and they're black, they eliminate the gun charges. They do other things to try to make them not felons, especially if they're under 18. They will reduce sentences, put them right back on the street, and then they go out and kill somebody. And this is why. It's because they're enforcing the laws racially. People know that. They know that they're going to get sympathy from these corrupt judges, and they're going to get a lesser sentence, which means there's less of a deterrent for them to not go out and commit future crimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. But you know what? I believe that the left doesn't care unless it's a crime in their immediate neighborhood.
Yes.
They live in these gated communities, these elites who are doing these things, the virtue signaling. They do not want those things happening in their neighborhood, but they are okay with it happening in the neighborhoods of others, just so that they can virtue signal and pretend as if they're this compassionate person who's making up for the slavery that they never committed in the first place. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Oh yeah. Well, and that leads to our next story here, and I got a video to play with this too. So Target cuts back on self-checkout amid growing theft concerns. And it isn't just Target. Walmart's eliminating them entirely in a bunch of their stores that have had high outbreaks of shoplifting, and out in California where they can't even charge people if it's theft under $1,000. And I mean, let me just show you how backwards the left is and how they think. This is a great video. Derek sent this to me this morning. This is from Eric Adams up in New York.
Says panic button that you'll immediately be able to hit, that is going to alarm the police and is going to be connected directly to the local precincts. When you do the combination, it's going to give you access to the cameras in the store to see what is taking place and how we could get an immediate response.
You can't make this up, man.
Yeah.
It's like Life Alert for business owners. Instead of just changing the policies that have created this, this culture of crime in the city of New York, they are now just saying we're going to give you Life Alert. So they're recognizing that there's a problem, but they're not willing to make any changes to the actual problem itself.
Yeah, instead, now you got a magic button you can press, and maybe the police will show up in 15, 20 minutes. Once the robbery's over with, you've been beaten to a bloody pulp on the ground. If they had two brain cells to rub together, they'd go hire Grady Judd, the sheriff in Lakeland, Florida, bring him up there, and he could start arming the people in New York. When you wind up with a few dead criminals that are getting capped because they're in there robbing the wrong convenience store, a lot of them are going to... they're going to start rethinking that behavior because there's going to be a deterrent. It could cost them their life if they rob the store or do whatever. So, but no, the New York goes the other way. They're going to give people these Life Alert keychains, basically, and hopefully you can press the button before you get, pistol whipped and knocked out or shot.
Austin, the coal cracker over here, says we do not need panic buttons in non-diverse and non-vibrant areas, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need them here in West Virginia, to my knowledge. We don't need Life Alert panic buttons for our business owners. Smash says, Smash K says the woke ideology is totally racist, and it absolutely is.
Yes.
This whole thing, this Life Alert button is just, I don't even know what to say about that right now. Like I said, I mean, they're admitting that there's an issue, there's admitting that there's a problem, but instead of addressing the actual problem, they are trying to address the symptom of the problem. But no worries, Mike. If you do get beat up, the police officers actually have access to your security footage, so they can watch you get beat up while they're on the way there.
Yeah, and if you do fight back, they're going to use that footage to try to prosecute you. Like the one guy a couple years ago that I can't remember if he had his own knife or if he disarmed the knife from the criminal, stabbed the guy, then killed him, and they wanted to prosecute him, put him in jail for murder for defending himself, even though the other guy had a weapon and was going after him, not just trying to rob him, but threatening his life. But that, again, that's like how backwards they are. They want to criminalize self-defense. They think you should just curl up in fetal position on the floor and take your licks, hope you survive the incident, because we can't harm one hair on the head of these criminals. But this is this backwards thinking from the left. Like over and over again, I think it's more and more true all the time that leftism is a mental disease.
Oh, it 100% is. There's no doubt about that. So I know we're pretty much out of time here. I just wanted to say thank you guys once again. Honestly, you guys have no idea how much we appreciate you guys. I love reading your comments. You guys probably see me smiling from time to time. It's just reading the comments. You guys are hilarious and bring a lot to the show and really make my day. So I really appreciate you guys more than you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we couldn't do this without all of you. So once again, thank you for being here with us today.